Hello everybody, I am Emikara and today I'm going to be talking about this little instrument right here called the agogo. Now the agogo has a lot of different functions within Brazilian music, whether you're playing ijexá, samba, maracatu. You can almost all forms of music in Brazil, almost all, have some form of bell involved in them because in general it's a very loud and piercing instrument. It's metallic. The sound cuts through a lot of other drums, so it's a really good timekeeping instrument. And you need a really strong player on bell because generally they're the one that everybody else is listening to keep the time and keep track of the clave and things like that. So make sure whoever's playing bell in your ensemble, they have a very good sense of time. So I want to go through some patterns specifically that one would play for samba on the agogo. Of course, there are many others. We're going to look at a basic samba groove and also Partido alto. Now, before we get there, first things first, you have to learn how to hold this. I like to put as much of my hand as possible actually on the bells. You don't want to hold all the way down here. You can, but they're really resonant little bells, and there's a lot of overtones going on, so I don't necessarily like that long ringy quality. I want to mute it a little bit, put my hands here, and everyone's hands are different, so what works for you works for you. But me personally, this is kind of my setup here where I have these two fingers pinching the low bell and my thumb kind of muting the high bell here. But again, everyone's hands do what works for you. Once you get your holding position down, I like to play it with a little bit of an angle, kind of like this, rather than coming straight up and down. I have a better access to the bells if I play on the side of them, and I prefer the tone of the side versus, they're very similar, but it's just a tiny little nitpicky difference. And from the side, I feel like I have a faster access. It's harder to change from like a lower level to a higher level very quickly, but from here it's just it's a sideways swipe, and I get a lot faster motion this way. And for the stick hand, you just hold it like a regular drumstick. My method of teaching people is like you're handing someone something and you just put a stick in that grip, and your thumb and the knuckle of your pointer finger are even, no fingers out, no thumbs out, just nice and even, all fingers on the stick, using your wrist, you're good to go. Alright, so let's start with a basic samba pattern. This isn't necessarily universal, but it is pretty standard for a lot of groups. This is a very common pattern, and it's gonna go like this. A 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A 1. Now, of course, samba generally goes a whole lot faster than this, so let's hear what that sounds like up tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I want to look at another pattern that's called Partido alto. And Partido alto could be considered the quote-unquote clave of Brazilian music, defining where the syncopated parts are and where the non-syncopated parts are. But that's a term more reserved for Afro-Cuban based music. It applies here, but you're not going to hear Brazilians really talk about clave all that much, even though it exists in their music. So Partido alto is this pattern that it technically starts on the E of 1. You go 3, 4, 1, E. That is kind of a tricky place to come in. So in most cases, you're just going to wait and start the pattern on beat 2. So when you come in, you go 3, 4, 1. And this pattern I really like because it kind of has this, all these patterns are cyclical, but because there's so much offbeat, so many offbeat hits in the pattern, you kind of lose the sense of really grounding yourself to the beat, and you get this circular sense of on-beat and off-beat. So if you're keeping track at home, 2 and 3 and, that's all non-syncopated, straight ahead, 2 and 3 and then you get to beats 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and E, E, and it's all these notes that don't line up anywhere in the beat. So you have to be really solid, make sure you're tapping your foot or put on the metronome at home, or better yet, both, to keep track of your on beats. 1, da, 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 ga, ga, ga. And that pattern, I usually like to put that at the same time that the tamborines are playing telakateku. Those two patterns work really nice together because they're kind of both based around the same rhythmic ideas. So for me, in my group, I put the first pattern, dum beating, gung gung king king, at the same time that the tamborines are doing kaheteru, and the chocalhos are in. And then you get to the second section of samba and heidu or batucada type piece, where the chocalhos drop out. Typically the tamborims go to telakateku or some kind of design. Agogo goes to Partido alto. All right, so we also need a virada, which is just a turning point from one section of a piece to another. And typically the whole bateria ensemble is going to play boom, boom, bing, and come in. And there's a couple ways you could play it on bell. Personally, I like to go ba 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 boom bing, just like that. One more time. That's a virada, usually signaled by this. And then from there, you can either go into Partido alto, you can go into the first samba pattern, or into something completely different. So let's try going from, we'll start with a virada. We'll go into the first pattern and do another virada, go into the second pattern, do a virada, and stop. All right, here we go. 1, 2, virada, go. And virada. 1, 2, 3, 4. Partido. Alright, virada to stop. And you may notice that I'm taking out the last note right before going into the virada. For example, in the first pattern, I'm not going bo ba 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 boom ba, because it kind of feels like it's being shoved in there. So you usually stop on beat 4 or somewhere around beat 4 to give a little bit of a space right before doing that virada. And with these two basic patterns, you can function in just about any kind of scenario for samba school bateria type situation, or also these patterns work just as well for pagode, samba de roda, things like that. You can also play telakateku on here and create some conversations between the high and low bell. Save that for the next class. But just to get yourself started, start with these two patterns, get really comfortable with them, make sure you're comfortable walking, stepping while you do it, counting out the rhythms, and you'll be set. So let me pass through these both one more time, just more up to carnival tempo, and we'll leave you with it there. So if we're about here, same order, virada 1, virada 2, virada stop. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and... That's it. Spend some time practicing. Don't forget the metronome, and see you in Agogo number 2.